once again to discuss things.
Eats away at your sense of masculinity. Otherwise, it's fine.
That's totally normal.
Alright, you want to go ahead and get started then?
Yeah, I'm good.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome to the very first character discussion of Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month. Joining me today is Steve Baxey. Hello, Steve.
Hello, me.
Yay. I am, of course, Sid Part 2, aka Ian Harrington. So, I did something pretty sneaky, at least I think so, Steve. I somehow managed to start all of Comedy Week off with videos that are either directly about or involve the Three Stooges, and I'm quite proud of myself.
Yeah, I kind of noticed.
Yeah, I love the Three Stooges, man. I grew up with watching the Three Stooges. I found out it was, I don't know if you ever watched it, but I remember waking up on Saturday mornings and you could go to AMC and they had Leslie Nielsen teaching at NYUK College, and he was be like doing the whole TV host introducing the old bits. It was quite amazing. Yeah, but I grew up watching the Three Stooges. My dad was a big fan, and so he definitely got me into it when I was really young. And they're kind of part of the reason I wanted to do just a whole month devoted to comedy, just so I could have an excuse to talk about the Three Stooges a bunch. So here we are.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to talk about the Three Stooges a bunch.
Yeah. Well, like, where do you stand on them, since I'm the bigger fan out of the two of us, I believe?
I don't know if you're the... I wouldn't say I'm not a fan with them. I really, really like them. I grew up on them too, but when I was growing up, it was more just, I guess, based on local TV channels and stuff. It was more Charlie Chaplin and Laurel and Hardy.
Okay.
So I liked Three Stooges a lot, but I came to them when I was a little bit older, in the same way like Laurel and Hardy are kind of my go-to comedy pair.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I love the Three Stooges. For some reason, I think it's AMC. It's probably AMC. They play nothing but the Three Stooges for a good 6 hours in the morning. Have you noticed this?
They still do that, huh?
Yeah. Like, they don't start airing their own programming until, like, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Damn, that's craziness.
Yeah, so, like...
It's probably the best daytime television, shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I would get up, get ready for school, or for high school at, like, 6 a.m., and I could just watch Three Stooges until I was getting ready to leave.
That's craziness.
Yeah, it was fun times. And they still do it. I don't have time to do it anymore, but, like, they still do it. It's kind of fantastic.
It's amazing. There's something universally funny about slapstick.
Yes, so true.
And I think the Three Stooges damn near perfected it. Like, obviously, other people did it and probably had more important, like, contributions, but just if you think slapstick, at least for me, you think Three Stooges.
Oh, so many of their bits are just, if they didn't invent them, they're the ones that made them funny, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think so. So, you know, I kind of feel bad because when I announced that we were doing this, I made it, like, kind of a joke, but it's kind of always how I felt. I almost don't count Shemp as a member of the Three Stooges. Like, I know the history of the actual guys and stuff, but... man, I can't think of one Shemp episode that I actually like.
So, Shemp's weird for me. Because for the longest time, I didn't realize he wasn't, like, part of the core team.
Well, do you know the history behind it?
Yeah, a little bit. You can go ahead and go into it, though, because it's been a while.
Okay, so, like, it started out with Mo, Shemp, and Larry on vaudeville.
Mm-hmm.
And then as vaudeville started to die out and films started to become more popular, Mo and Larry went to go do films, but Shemp just decided he was done with it, and so they brought in, you know, Curly Howard, the younger brother. They brought in Curly to do it, and so Curly's there for, you know, the first like 10 to 15 years of the Stooges on film. But then he got really sick and had to bow out, and they actually managed to convince Shemp to come back and reprise it. And, like, They went through a bunch of battles with the studio because the studios thought that Shemp and Mo looked too much alike and that the dynamic wouldn't work. And to be honest, I kind of agree with that. I do think that Shemp does some good work, but at the same time, when I was a kid and I saw Shemp in an episode, I immediately had little to no interest.
That's fair. No, that makes sense. I guess when I was growing up, they were just playing a lot of the newer stuff, not newer, but a lot of the later stuff, because I saw Shemp a lot. And I just
me too.
assumed that he was there for everything. And it wasn't until I was older that I realized Curly was actually like the iconic one. It's a little bit like Siskel and Ebert versus Ebert and Roper. Well, like I grew up on Ebert and Roper, and someone had to tell me that, oh, no, the original guy's name is Siskel.
Yeah, okay.
It's that kind of thing.
That's interesting. Because, yeah, like, I always, like, I remember I fell in love with the Stooges and Curly in particular. Like, Curly's my favorite. I've been working on my Curly in preparation for this week of Geeky Gentleman Comedy Month, so if you'll indulge me. Anyway, like I love my Curly. He's just the bestest. And I don't know, man. I just never got into Shemp by comparison.
So let me ask you this. I know your answer, but I'm just going to ask you anyway because I think it might be a fun point of comparison because there's a lot of one-for-ones between these two. Three Stooges, counting Curly, not Shemp, versus the Marx Brothers.
Three Stooges easily.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew you were going to say Three Stooges. I didn't think you would say easily.
I mean, like, I like the Marx Brothers. I respect the Marx Brothers, but I wasn't introduced to them when I was young enough to be able to appreciate it as much.
Yeah.
Like, it's still really funny. Like, Groucho in the fucking mirror is one of the best versions of that bit ever.
Oh, no, absolutely. Groucho Marx being the inspiration for Bugs Bunny is the whole, like, my whole essence of humor at this point.
Yeah, like, I definitely get it, and I agree, and I quite like a lot of bits from the Marx Brothers, but I don't know, man, the Three Stooges... Marx Brothers, I think, have a lot, like, more of a balance between kind of, like, you know, lowbrow slapstick and kind of witty, higher brow, dialogue-based humor. And Three Stooges is definitely more slapstick than it is dialogue, but I'll say the Three Stooges have some pretty good dialogue humor from time to time.
No, I agree. Marx Brothers is a weird thing where I almost never find it funny the first time, and then when I go back and I have subtitles on or something, it's hysterical. But Three Stooges has definitely got more of like a, not base, but more of like an instinctual, like it gets at the vein of what's funny really quickly.
Yeah, I feel like if I could time travel with any films, I would time travel with Three Stooges films, because you can just get it so easily.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah. I also think Three Stooges have aged better than a lot of the Marx Brothers films.
They're not, like, it's weird, because Three Stooges did a lot of jumping around in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there'll be episodes where they're, you know, back and they're the Three Musketeers, and then they're pioneers, or you know, soldiers in the Civil War or something. And so just, it fits better because it's just the same kind of classic, timeless humor, and they prove that it can fit in basically any era. And, like, I know they tried, but they didn't do it well. It's just, you know, they'd gotten old by that point. But they tried doing, like, cartoons where they did sci-fi meeting aliens and stuff, and that was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, there was that whole string of movies where they were going to space. I never liked any of those.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on Joe?
Joe
and Curly Joe after... Because after Shemp they had Joe, and after Joe they had Curly Joe, and in the Scooby-Doo crossovers it was always Curly Joe, not Joe. Or Curly.
See, this, I didn't see a lot of their later bits, because that's not the kind of thing that gets collected very often.
That's fair. Curly Joe's only in my brain because of Scooby-Doo, I think.
Okay.
But, like, as far as I know Stooges history, there's Shemp, there's Curly, there's Joe, and then there's Curly Joe.
Yeah, okay, that's...
And I never understood Curly Joe or Joe. I don't think I've seen anything with Joe, I just know he exists.
No, nothing. I didn't even know this. Like, I knew after Curly left, and Shemp was, like, he was the oldest of them all, so it was just really hard for him to do all this stuff. So they tried to find other people to fit in the act, and that's kind of just when it died, because they couldn't find anybody who could pull it off long term.
Well, the dynamic between Mo and Larry was always there, and Curly made it work, and Shep made it work, but after that, those two guys know each other too well to have anyone else in the mix.
Yeah, I agree. There's just something so, like, personal between the way they all act with each other. Like, you can just tell they developed this really perfect working relationship over the years. Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this, because we're talking about the Three Stooges as characters, and we mostly talked about the history of the brothers and the dynamic of how they work as a group. But, like, do they actually qualify as characters, since I think only really one other set of actors have truly played the Three Stooges as the Three Stooges, and that was in the, 2012, 2013 film?
Yeah, that remake, or reboot, I guess, they did a while back.
Yeah. Like, can you really qualify the Three Stooges as characters, or is it just an act that three actors did, and now it's done?
I think it's closer to an act that three actors did. I wouldn't even necessarily call it an act as much as I would call it a bit with continuity. Because, like, and this is not a knock on them, the Stooges as characters, quote-unquote, don't really have any depth. Their entire sense of humor is derived just from their, like, personality with each other and the slapstick they're able to pull out, but almost none of it has to do with their character. It's not like a Tramp thing where, like, the Tramp's a particular type of person that gets himself into particular kinds of problems. The Marx Brothers have this too, but in general, I think the Three Stooges embody it more, where it's just a bunch of bits with a few brothers that know each other really well, and I don't think of them as characters.
See, I don't know if I'd go that far. I do think there is some character there. I just don't think that, like, anyone else can really capture it, at least not long term.
Well, okay. To be fair, I hated the Three Stooges movie they made a few years ago. I don't think it was good at all, but I don't think those actors were bad.
Yeah.
I think they actually got it. The movie just sucked.
I mean, that movie is so, like, I have really conflicting feelings on that movie, because it was the last film my dad and I got to see in theaters together before he just got too sick to be able to do that kind of thing. So it's like this really, it's got a place in my heart, even though I do recognize that it's bad. Like, it really feels like they're like, well, we gotta make the Three Stooges cool. What do kids find cool? Let's get the Old Spice guy in Jersey Shore in there. And so, like, that's really dumb, but at the same time, there's something just undeniably satisfying of seeing Mo beat the shit out of the Jersey Shore people.
Yeah, this is true.
So anyway, yeah, but, like, those actors did a really good job capturing the character again, but at that point, it's not even really acting, it's just imitating someone else's bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, like, that point, that's what kind of where I'm like, they're not really characters, but at the same time, Curly is a distinct role from Shemp in the bits. Like, you know, Curly, like, the bit that they did and did it in a couple different settings was Curly had some kind of weird thing, like, if you play Pop Goes the Weasel on a violin, then he gets invincible fighting powers and can knock anyone out in one punch, so they put him in a boxing ring. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not a bit you could do with that bit didn't work with Shemp. Like, and it's not like they transferred that kind of bit over to Larry or Mo. That was just a Curly thing. So I do think there's definitely, like, traits of the character that, like, this story doesn't work without this particular character that they're going for.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
It's kind of like Duck Season, Rabbit Season wouldn't really work with Sylvester and Foghorn Leghorn, you know?
Yeah, okay. No, I'll give you that then. That makes sense. Fun fact, though, Benicio del Toro almost played Mo in the Three Stooges movie.
Dude, that thing, like, everybody almost played somebody in the Three Stooges movie. They spent, like, 15 years trying to make that thing.
That's fair. Jim Carrey was almost Curly.
Yeah.
And Samberg was going to be Larry.
Yeah, they spent so long trying to make that damn movie. Like, at one point, they're like, let's make them women, so that way women will come see the movie. What?
You can't do that with the Three Stooges. That just doesn't work.
Yeah, get that SJW shit out of here. No, it really doesn't. I do want to talk about this because, I mean, I've been rewatching the bits in preparation for this, and so it is worth mentioning that they're definitely products of their time. Like,
Yeah.
I was watching through the DVD collection that I got from my dad, and like there's one, like, just the thumbnail on the DVD is the Three Stooges in, you know, Native American feather headdresses, and I'm like, oh god. Like, I just feel the cringe. And so they're definitely dated. They're definitely products of their time. I don't think they're, compared to some of the shit that was produced, horrific. They're certainly not good. Those are clearly their worst bits that have just completely they're completely dated and don't age well at all.
I mean, what? The Stooges went from 1930 to at least the 1960s. So in that span, there was bound to be some pretty bad fuck-ups.
Yeah, and, like, I mean, you know...
And to their credit, a lot of the bad stuff I don't see reprinted on DVD.
Yeah, they've been smart enough to say, okay, yeah, we're not doing this. And it's nowhere near as bad as, like, what is it, Cole White, or some of those hidden Warner Brothers animations and stuff.
Yeah.
At least nothing that I've seen so far. But there are some where I'm like, that's just kind of... It's just kind of shit.
Never do blackface, I don't think, so...
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Like, from all the stuff I've seen, they actually hire black actors. Admittedly, they're in roles of just, like, bellboys, maids, stuff like that. But they're actually got black people in the damn movies, so there's something.
That's true. And they had jokes. That's the other thing, is that they weren't just kind of peripheral.
Yeah, and, you know, it's one of these things when we talk about the historical context. I feel like some people say, oh, well, it was a different time, and act like that makes it okay. And it doesn't. It's still a problem, but it's certainly a consideration to be brought in. It doesn't make the entire bit awful. It doesn't make the guys that are in it awful. They were men of their time. They acted like white guys of their time.
Yeah.
So it's not that it ruins it or anything. It's just like, you look at it sometimes and you go, shit. And then there's other things like just attitudes have changed, and so what was once progressive is now super regressive. Like, how much Little Rascals have you watched?
A decent amount.
Okay. Like, I remember people being really pissed at Little Rascals, and, like, Bill Cosby kept the rights for years because he didn't want them broadcast and all this stuff. And yeah, certainly the white writers of the time wrote, Buckwheat and Sammy really stereotypically. But at the same time, that show was actually considered progressive as fuck because they showed white kids and black kids playing together. And so it's this very particular thing where the context kind of works both ways. Taking it in as a product of its time kind of works both ways.
Yeah.
And so I don't think the Stooges do too much like that besides just hiring black actors, but it is part of the consideration to talk about, I feel.
Well, and the Stooge, the whole nature of slapstick is such that being offensive means kind of going out of your way to be offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing... I struggle to find a situation in a slapstick scenario that's just inherently racist because of the time it's in. Like, slapping someone's not racist.
Yeah, and, like, also misogynistic, because there are episodes where, you know, they'll be in a hoity-toity society thing, and it'll erupt into chaos, and a woman will slap Curly, and Curly will slap her right back.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, in a lot of other contexts, that's pretty fucked up, but in the context of slapstick where no one's ever really hurt, it's just more acceptable in the context of the comedic bit, I feel.
Yeah. It's not that actions don't have consequences in slapstick, it's that the actions are so bizarre that the consequences almost don't matter.
Yeah, the scenarios that happen in the Stooges slapstick in particular are just so damn ludicrous.
Yeah.
It's everything that can go wrong goes wrong, and just physics breaks at a certain
Stooges
point.
are like one step away from being farce, but never get there, and that's kind of why I love them.
Yeah.
Like, they're not the Naked Gun, but they're always just an inch away from it.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I think it's because that level of sophistication for farce wasn't quite there yet, because we were still inventing the tropes, so it was harder to make fun of the tropes.
This is true.
For filmmaking. So I feel like that's probably a part of it. What else is worth talking about with the Stooges?
Do you have a favorite bit or a favorite movie or anything like that? Because I don't. I just figured I'd ask because there's so many of them. I can't keep track of them all in my head as coherent movies. I just think bits.
This was the one I quoted to death, and it was what my dad would yell before he would run and tickle me. So I got Niagara Falls. The Three Stooges, Niagara Falls, Slowly I Turned. Gents Without Sense is the name of the episode. That was always the one that just... I remember watching that over and over and over again and crying laughing when I was a kid. And if I watch it now, I'll probably still laugh, but it won't be nearly as funny. But I remember that whole bit where it goes like, Niagara Falls, slowly I turned, inch by inch, step by step.
That was such a good bit. No, that's
that one always stuck with me, and so I love it to death.
The one they played to death. I don't know if you've ever had this. I think most people have this, where an episode of something comes on and you don't really know what you're watching, and then eventually you decide that you're going to start watching the show, and it's always that same episode that's on.
A little bit. I've had that every so often.
Yeah, so I had that with Three Stooges, and the one that's always on for some godforsaken reason is the one where they're like witnesses at a murder trial.
Oh, with the band and everything?
Yeah.
Like, they gotta fucking get the parrot and shit?
Yeah.
That is one of my favorites, because, like, it is when Mo is probably at his most sympathetic, because when you're a kid, Mo's a jerk and he's always beating people up, but it's funny. But, like, when you're an adult, you're like, he's gotta deal with these fucking assholes. They're in court, and Mo's, in a suit. He's serious. It's fucking court. The other two are goddamn playing jacks. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
It's kind of the best thing ever. I loved that one for being just so preposterous.
Yeah, that one's really good. There's something to that, and I don't know. Part of the I think the appeal of the Three Stooges as you get older. I want to talk about male and female reaction to Three Stooges too, but I think part of the appeal of Three Stooges as you get older is now that I've worked. I've been in that situation where someone does something really stupid and I just want to reach across the table and, like, bop them on the head real quick.
Yeah.
Like, it just, it's so satisfying to watch.
That is dead accurate. Yeah.
Oh, man. Now, I mentioned to my mom that I've been rewatching Three Stooges bits recently, and she said, men. Like, because there's this weird sense... And it's not just her I've encountered it with, but there's this weird sense that, like, girls don't like Three Stooges. And I don't know where that comes from. Do you think Three Stooges are a particularly male thing?
See, I never thought of it that way, but now that you're saying that, I remember my mom hating the fact that I watched Three Stooges.
Yeah?
Yeah, and my sister never liked them either. She got bored.
Haley has been watching a couple with me, and she's getting a laugh out of them here and there.
But it's fair to say she's not into them either.
I mean, I don't think she really watched a bunch before that. Like, she'd probably seen a episode or two.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I never thought about that. I never thought of anything Three Stooges as being inherently male or masculine, but now that I'm thinking about it, I can't think of a single woman that's watched Three Stooges or has talked to me about Three Stooges.
Yeah, like, it seems to connect on a very male level, and I don't know, like, I asked my mom to explain it once, and she's just like, well, they're just always hitting each other and hurting each other, and I can't watch that. I'm like...
That's exactly what my mom said.
Yeah, I guess. I don't get it.
That's why my mom didn't like me watching Ed, Edd and Eddy, because it was basically Three Stooges.
Yeah, totally. It's weird. I don't know. It's like this... It's just something that guys seem like. Monty Python kind of has the same thing. I notice where like a lot of women don't get into Monty Python for whatever reason. Like I remember even in an episode of Family Guy, they did a whole joke based around this idea where like Peter says, I strapped Megan to a chair and forced her to watch the 9 hours of Monty Python bits that are neither funny nor memorable. And she's just like sitting there looking at it and she goes, I'm a girl, I don't even like the good Monty Python bits. And there's something to that. I don't know what it is about like slapstick or this just bizarre silliness in comedy that seems to be more of a male-centric thing. Because while I'm sure there are women who love the Three Stooges or whatever, it does seem to be like predominantly male.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal with that is. And I can't think of that for any other, like... Monty Python's a big example and Three Stooges is a big example, but I have never had that with Chaplin or Abbott and Costello or Laurel and Hardy or, like, anything else, really.
I think it's because those tell more of a story, whereas Three Stooges and Monty Python are just kind of general silliness.
That's fair. Yeah, no one... There is generally a plot to stuff like Laurel and Hardy, and they don't hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe it's just the whole... I guess part of it is, here are three characters that clearly either can't stand each other or do nothing but squabble with each other, so why should we watch this?
Yeah.
And none of the other comedy pairs seem to have that.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Then the other thing that I think might do it is kind of the nurturing aspect, because it's usually moms that don't like it. Mm-hmm. It's the nurturing aspect, because I remember when I was a kid and my dad didn't have the talk with me that what they were doing wasn't real. So like I remember being on vacation in Florida and walking around with my cousin Jessica, and I was doing one of the bits where it's like hold your fist out down in front of them and say, hey, look at this. They look down and just bring your fist up real quick and like kind of boop them right in the nose.
Yeah.
I was doing that to all my family members, and I got away with it like 2 or 3 times before everyone got wise, because of course I kept doing the same bit. But then I was walking around at night in Florida for some reason with my cousin Jessica, and I see some kids.
How are you still alive?
Yeah. It was like Tampa, dude. Come the fuck on. Like there were some like older kids, like middle school age maybe, playing basketball, and I came up to him and I was like, "Hey, look here!" And Jessica's like, "No, Ian, don't!" She like grabbed my fist and pulled me away. So like I think like that might be part of the reason that like mothers in particular don't like it is boys tend to imitate that more often, I think. Maybe, I don't know. Like I thought it was interesting in the 2013, I want to say, movie. It ends with actors playing the Farley brothers explaining how the physical comedy isn't real and it's all rehearsed and staged and all that stuff, so that when kids watch it, they don't go try to imitate it as much.
Right.
And I don't know how well that worked. It seems like it's just going to be kids imitating fake violence as opposed to actual violence, which I guess is an improvement.
Well, I wonder at what point in history we got the disclaimer on commercials of "Don't try this at home."
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's a post-Stooges thing.
Oh, it easily is. Dude, you have no idea. Like, you gotta think about, like, who is it? George Reeves. He had to go out and tell kids only Superman can fly.
Ah, true.
Yeah, so I think it's all kind of connected to that. Just kids, boys in particular, I think feel a need to imitate. And I think some of the violence in Stooges really turns moms off to it. That's my little armchair theory. That's
it's
all I
violence
got.
without consequence, so I guess that's the other thing. It's kind of like Power Rangers, where like if you grow up watching Power Rangers and there's violence without consequence, you will grow up to be kind of violent. Everyone I know that grew up on Power Rangers like got into fights for some reason. Mm-hmm. So
I don't know. I think getting into a fight is kind of a rite of passage for growing up, but
that's
neither here nor there. All right. Well, I kind of expended everything I'd been thinking of, turned my wheels on with the Three Stooges. I said Curly was my favorite. Did you have a favorite member of... Oh, Mo? Okay.
Mo. I've always liked Mo. I don't know what it is. I always like that lead brother type character in all of these bits. Like, Groucho Marx is the funniest, Mo's the funniest, Hardy's funnier than Laurel, that kind of thing.
Okay, all right. Well, I think that'll do it, though, for Three Stooges. Steve, what characters are we talking about next time on comedy month?
Next time, we are talking about Charlie Chaplin's The Tramp.
Ooh, okay.
We're talking specifically about the Tramp character, not Charlie Chaplin.
Yes, indeed. All right, sounds like fun. Are we just going to do all old comedy guys?
Well,
like
I wanted
comedy
to
bits?
pick, I wanted to pick something that would be either more contemporary or something that's more generally accessible, like Bo Burnham or something like that. But I don't know, I just kind of want to talk about The Tramp.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just thought it'd be funny if we end up doing all comedy month and it's all classic comedy acts and stuff.
I am down for that.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I haven't picked who my second's gonna be. I was doing comedy month just for Three Stooges. As far as I'm concerned, it could have just been Comedy Week or Stooges Week. I'm good now. Anyway. All right. Well, join us for that next time, folks. Until then, I'm a victim of circumstance. Let me do that again. I'm a victim of circumstance. Okay, now I'm happy.
That was funny. I'm an exile.
And we're your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.